it, and then whatever happens, we'll put it that way.
Whatever happens, I embarrass myself now.
At least we weren't, if it's there if we want it at the end of the day.
That light right there, purposely trying to
blind us.
Trying to blind you. Whew.
How old are you, by the way, Johnny?
I turned 27 in April, so I'm getting on. I'm at the point in my life where I feel that, I've gone through so much, but there's like a turning point now. I'm getting close to 30 where I think that I need to skyrocket ahead with the business.
Yeah.
So that's basically should be my priority. I've got something else popped up, but that light really
is fucking annoying.
That light, honestly. Hold on.
Just get a bottle and just launch it at it, mate. See how good your shot is.
Mate, I'd end up breaking something, trust. Well, what have you and Alex been talking about?
We've been talking about girls, mate. Fun conversation of girls. And
is this true, Alex? Is he there?
He's lagging a bit.
He's gone quiet.
Am I there? Yeah.
Shy.
What kind of stuff? Like red pill stuff? Like dating in general?
Me simping. No, I'm kidding.
Disgusting.
I'm kidding, of course not. Have you not seen my TikTok? Well, I try not to simp. I don't think I'm simping. I know you're into the red pill though.
Mm-hmm.
I see your posts on your Instagram. I like that. I'm very into that as well. Like, it's cool. I'm sure you're very familiar with Elliot Holt, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, he's one of my dude. I'm not wearing it now, but I've got a Strength Camp vest. I'm a big fan of him.
Did you go?
Huge inspiration.
Did you go to Strength Camp?
I didn't go, but a few years ago when I was this is back when I was with my old ex-girlfriend. Back when I was the biggest simp you can imagine.
Yeah.
He was doing some like coaching thing, and I paid, I don't know, like a couple of grand or something. And but at this time, my like psychological status was just absolutely just gone. Like you can't even imagine how bad it was. I think I spent about £2,000 gambling on Counter-Strike keys. This is from my university money.
Right. What a way to spend your money.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not proud of it, but I underwent like the coaching thing, but too much to deal with, like psychologically, mentally, hormonally. I just wasn't at the place where I could, become the strongest version of myself. So I ended up like dropping out of that. But I got the vest and stuff, and now that I'm actually on the journey to becoming the strongest version of myself, it's kind of like complementary.
So, yeah. So where are you at, like in terms of like what's your kind of like story? Would you say, just to get an idea of like, who you are?
God, so I had the best way I can describe it is, I'm sure Alex can resonate with this a lot as well. So I'm half Bulgarian, but I've always felt foreign in this country.
Right.
So like throughout my entire, childhood, I always felt a bit like pushed aside because I'm more, I was a mummy's boy, my mum's Bulgarian, and that's what I was like going towards. So I felt, I was always like left out and stuff. And in high school, I was picked on a lot, and it kind of, over time, it kind of built into resentment. So I became like very hateful and stuff. And, you find your first love. Again, Alex will know about this. And that first love, you just put everything on the line. Your entire mentality, you just put everything on that. And you can end up doing very stupid things on that basis, because oftentimes if we don't have like a masculine role model to guide us into how we should interact with women, we just go in with, the concept where if we just buy her stuff, we'll keep her. And then this was just the most wrong mindset.
That's kind of like your natural inclination, like for some reason to just provide things. But
Exactly.
Unfortunately, women just can't. They don't have the capacity to like appreciate that, and they take it for granted.
I think it depends. So, for example, the first time I did it, I like positive response, but then I made it like an every month thing to try
Yeah.
and get like top the previous month to the point where like on the 6th month I'd spend something like, let's say, 500 quid on a hotel night for 6 months, bro. I'm not gonna lie, like it was a really good night, but you know, and trying to top that then over, it was just like
Yeah,
downfall.
yeah. I know what you mean. Like, and also
We all do.
it's because she expects it though. Like once you've done it once, they sort of expect it. Like, or once you've taken them out like 3 or 4 times, let's say, they kind of that's the bar's been set. Like that's what you've set the bar as. Like this is our relationship.
Generally, yes. Generally, yes. With my experience, I mean, because my ex girlfriend, she was Bulgarian. She had like a nice strong father figure. So like
Right.
she wasn't one of those kind of materialistic girls.
Yeah.
So it was my mentality where I believed I had to do this in order to keep her happy. And even she mentioned that like if you keep giving gifts and stuff, it's gonna desensitize the feeling. I mean, my cousin said it to me, and you just don't get it into your brain until things actually start going haywire.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, I did what any simp would do after the breakup. I ran
Thanks for her back.
yes.
Yeah.
I ran a cycle or two of gear. Big mistake.
You ran a cycle of gear. What do you mean?
Steroids.
Oh, okay. No worries. Got it.
Man, like from the first injection, like hitting those 500 megs of the test, it wasn't a fast ester, so I shouldn't have been able to feel it. But I just felt maybe it was like a what's it called, thingy effect, placebo. From the first injection, I had like a breath of calmness come over me, and from that moment, like the first injection, I was hooked. So.
So what are you saying? You're still on roids now? Is that what you're trying to say? You're still on the roids now? Like, did you get off?
No. So I've spent the past let's say, my operation actually was yesterday, so it's like a 5-year anniversary. So it's been quite an emotional time. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself.
You're leaving gaps in this, man.
I know.
You're like jumping like one fucking.
I got too much glutamate in me right now.
Good boy.
There was a point when my appendix exploded. So I was on a plane going to Bulgaria, and I had symptoms of appendicitis while I was on the plane. I just thought it was the milk because I'm lactose intolerant. Thought it was that causing me digestive issues. So little did I know. So like a few days later, I get this like pain in my stomach. It was about 4 a.m. Like bang! I'm like, what the hell is this? No idea what's going on. So I did the worst thing. I take a sip of water, go back to sleep. 2 hours later, again, bang! And this time, like the pain is unbearable. I'm like cradling myself. There's no position I could lay in which I don't feel like, yeah. So essentially, I developed peritonitis because the appendix exploded, and then I had months of mental anguish. Basically, things got worse after the operation was done, and that wasn't to do with the actual operation. That was just my mental state during that period.
Cool. So you've been through a lot of shit then.
Yeah.
Well, you feel like this has made you like kind of who you are now? Like you think it's brought you to this moment right now?
100%.
What were some of the things like that got you through like that? Like was that where you sort of found like nutrition and supplements and things like that, or?
No, I mean I was already.
You already into that.
Kind of. I mean, I've been lifting since 2013.
Yeah.
And this accident happened in 2016, so I've been lifting for quite a while. And essentially, how do I explain this now? I got to a point where I just didn't know. I worked my ass, like when I was on gear, I worked my absolute ass off. I was training so hard. I was force feeding myself. I was going completely out. And then you lose all of this muscle within the space of a week, all of the progress after the breakup. And that, at first you're grateful to be alive, just the idea of just not dying. But once the reality sets in after, and you're like, well, I've lost everything. I can't do what I wanted to do, which was basically have a good time. Things got pretty dark. So, yeah. One thing, though, I always felt like, for whatever reason, psilocybin mushrooms were calling out to me.
Really?
So,
Have you ever done them before?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, if you'd never done them and they were calling out to you, then I'd be like, that's pretty interesting. But I mean, considering you've done them before, maybe you're
at the time. No, at the time I hadn't done them before.
Oh, really?
I hadn't. It was, I don't know what it was. It was like
no way.
Something in the universe telling me, drawing me closer to it. The idea was in my head. I had no understanding about it. I didn't know what it did. It was just something about that was like calling me.
Yeah, got it.
So
you ended up doing them, right?
Happened. Yeah. So
was that like an awakening experience for you?
Bro, imagine if you've been living with like a shrouded cloud in front of your face your entire life.
And all of a sudden,
and then suddenly it's not just lifted, you're ascended miles into the sky where you see everything from a bird's eye view, everything that's happened in the past, who you are and who you've become.
Yeah.
And you see that from another perspective in which you would have never seen it before.
Wow.
Like that for me was, it was changing, man, life changing.
Okay, got it.
So
that's cool. That's really interesting.
Mushrooms are fucked up. Like they're so like you can't even describe the feeling.
So wait, so Johnny, like, would you say you're so you had this whole long period of like kind of being in the clouds, then you were awakened. Do you feel like you're trying to make up for lost time? Is that why you've got so much energy? It's just like, holy shit, like we're fucking here. Like, do you know what I mean?
Well, at first I'd come off gear, of course, and I had the testosterone levels of I don't even want it. I did PCT and everything, but
what's that?
Post-cycle treatment or therapy, something like that.
That meant to like heal. Fucked up.
Yeah, essentially, you take these estrogenic tablets that they signal to the brain that there's not enough estrogen, and then the brain releases testosterone to aromatize to give you more estrogen. Yeah. But the problem is these things are very estrogenic in the tissue. So for example, in the penis, in the testicles, in the brain, so you can get feminized from it. So I believe during PCT I developed a varicocele during that.
Oh yeah, cool. You believe he was never diagnosed, no? You believe, but you were never diagnosed.
I know I've been diagnosed with a varicocele, but I believe it came from the estrogen. There's some theories that estrogen gets into the valves of the testicle, and it stops them from functioning properly. So that's like a Ray Peat thing, but
So basically, like you experience like low testosterone.
Oh yeah,
and,
yeah.
Like, how is that? Like you said, it feminizes you in the brain. Like, was your character? I'm assuming your character would have been different. Like you would have been. What was that experience like? I'm just curious. Like, would you say you're healed now, right?
Say I'm what now?
Would you say you're healed from that now?
Oh, one sec. Yeah, I'd say. Oh, definitely. So I spent the majority of my childhood was with low testosterone. So when my voice broke about 14, 15, it was still high pitched, and people would, I get bullied. They still say my voice hasn't broken, even though it was deeper. It was that. So I'd always been like, I don't want to say effeminate, but leading like hormonally, my hormones were like in shambles.
Okay, got it.
So I specifically remember trying to correct my mannerisms Like, because I'd be like, effeminate mannerisms I start doing, like when I speak with my hands, the gestures and stuff. And I'd be trying to correct that in my,
Right.
by being aware of it. But only until I fixed my hormones did
it naturally come?
actually, exactly.
That's so fascinating though, because like, I mean, I might post this, so I will be careful what I say, but I mean, let's just think about, look at our society and look at how men are becoming more feminine. What if it is not this? It's just the way they are. Like, what if there's actually like a neurotransmitter dysfunction that's literally causing these men, like, because we accept it in society, no one questions it. No one goes, okay, like maybe there's something wrong with these people. I don't know.
You can tell when someone's gay by just looking at them.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like
the way they carry themselves.
But I've seen things on TikTok because like guys are cured from being gay. Like they do some special treatment. So like, it's a very, very controversial topic. I don't want any SJWs coming onto my channel and fucking.
Yeah. So I post a lot of stuff on Instagram on my story about that, and I've spoken to Alex about that as well.
But like, look at World War II. Like, look. Okay.
Oh yeah.
World War II.
Of course.
These men were men, but I mean, these guys were going to fight. You look at the videos of the soldiers marching, you can just feel the energy, like feel that groundedness, that masculinity. You look at men nowadays, and like look at any influencers, YouTubers. They're like children, they're like females, and they're not even good with girls. Like even though they're famous, they still struggle to even talk to a girl. Like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
I firmly believe that chemically and socially, men are being feminized.
Yeah.
Not castrated per se, but towards that area, yeah. And I believe it's being done on purpose.
Okay. Well, I think me and Alex probably say we would agree with that, right? Yeah, it's all an agenda, 100%. Because
to an extent, yeah.
Men are literally like the backbone of society. Like without men, nothing really happens.
You're gonna trigger a lot of people saying that.
Fuck it, I don't really care. Like it's just the reality of it. But I think we have a responsibility. Like I feel a responsibility to get this in check. Like I've been given this gift. I've been given a gift to be a man. I believe. I would hate to be a woman. I'd hate to be a woman. Women got it harder than we have. I'm gifted to be a man because I can build myself up.
But saying that, I mean, women have women
most
literally spawn children
exactly.
into like. What more could you ask? And the fact they're being convinced that this is something bad, this is something that's going to stifle their progress because they're meant to compete against men, the most ridiculous idea. And it's sad. It really is sad because at the end of the day, the way women's brains develop is they're lateral. So lateral is essentially they're better with language communication, whereas ours is actually from front to back. So we're forward thinkers. So the way I like to visualize, exactly. The way I visualize it is, imagine now you've got an entire city and the female brain can see all the buildings around. It can see the biggest, the smallest, etc. Whereas the male brain is focused on hopefully building its own building upwards. And then, of course, the woman can see which is the biggest building she could find and try and get with that building.
That's fucking cool. I like that analogy.
But it's
such an interesting analogy. Like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So what do men look at? I missed that part.
Alex, pay attention.
Wait, say that again?
What do men look at?
So we look at creating our building out the biggest structure. We could use someone else's as an example and say, I'm going to base this on this, or I want to build a bigger building, motivation, etc. But generally, our brains are directed on going upwards. And the female brain is more looking laterally.
Got it.
Yeah, so it's looking for that biggest building. Like it's scanning all the buildings and going, which one is the biggest, so I can join that building. You get me?
Hypergamy.
Yeah, which is very, very interesting and like
it's a fact.
Yeah. Wow. What else would you have to say about that? Like in terms of men and women, how they differ, like brain wise, that you know of, or just in that topic, like.
I'd say a lot of what's happening today, people don't understand that it's the brain that's being feminized, like heavily. You can have guys, for example, who have high testosterone, but their brains are still effeminate. So There's one guy on TikTok. I think he's a NoFap coach like you, and he posted this video with a study about how chronic masturbating. It showed in rats that chronic masturbating actually
Androgen
increases.
receptor.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. So wait, I'm curious. Can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
So in terms, let's talk about supplementation, like quickly off track, like Tribulus,
Yeah.
right? I've read that it increases the androgen receptor density, like in the brain. So,
Yeah.
so how is that different to androgen receptors, like in the muscles? Like, what are the effects of having like a high, if you know, like high androgen receptors in the brain? Like, is that what makes you act more masculine?
Yeah. So when there's more androgen receptors in the brain, obviously more androgens can bind to it, and I think the more you have of that, the more mentally you become
Masculine.
androgenic. Yeah.
Got it.
So the more focused you can become on whether it's your goals or even sexual pursuits, or
Yeah.
how dominant you are in the bedroom. And I've got a
Interesting.
theory that this is
Fucking
probably going to trigger a
interesting.
lot of people.
Oh, just go for it, bro.
Essentially, the problem we
I'll
have
make a new
with
channel for this,
transgenderism. Essentially, the problem we have with transgenderism. If you look at transgender people and how they are, you'll find a lot of similarities. So, for example, many of them, I like to categorize them between two types. There's the androgenic looking ones and there's the autistic type ones. So the more androgenic transsexuals are the ones that they've got like stronger jawlines. They've got they're generally, I wouldn't say taller, but they've got like more muscular looking physiques.
Okay.
Whereas the autistic type are more like they look more effeminate.
Okay.
So yeah, and
So
I think
transgender, right? So
yeah,
would this be female to male or male to female or all of them?
male to female, male to female.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So I believe, like my belief is in the androgenic ones, their their brain requires some sort of flat level of androgens, so they meet the mark. And when they go under that, of course, they become more submissive. And at the end of the day, when you're submissive, I mean, I genuinely believe if you're submissive enough, you can get someone to, like, say you've got a wife, she could easily convince you to do whatever she wants, which includes stuff with other sexual orientations. So bring in another guy, for example. So a lot of these, especially the androgenic ones, they're very much sissies. I believe that's how they call themselves as well, like sissy men. Or with the autistic type, that's more of a. It seems more of a like. I understand they're both estrogen dominant, okay? But with the autistic type, it's like they were more going towards that direction. They developed towards that direction. Whereas the androgenic transsexuals were, everything was fine until something happened, whether they didn't pursue, doing masculine things and their hormones dropped. But it seems like there's a difference in development.
Interesting. Okay, so my question to you from that would be: so is estrogen? Is that what's like counteracting this androgen receptor in our brain? Is that what creates feminine behaviors, or is there more to it than that?
I wouldn't say solely estrogen. I would.
So is it a lack of androgen density within the brain? That's what's causing men to act
So
submissive.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So having more, I'd say more estrogen receptors than androgen receptors.
Got it.
That'll make you more submissive, and then of course. Generally, there's other hormones like prolactin as well, which when prolactin's high, it's going to take down your testosterone, it's going to take down your dopamine.
Yeah.
And that's a stress hormone that is, sorry. If you chronically masturbate, for example, you're going to be spiking your prolactin up, and then you're going to be down regulating your dopamine receptors. So it is just a constant cycle that gets worse and worse.
I'd say that's probably why I resonate with. Well, again, I don't actually know this for a fact, but I have gynecomastia, right? I got it when I was like 13.
Yeah, I understand that too well.
So I I assume it's either estrogen, prolactin that cause that, and I resonate with NoFap so much. I believe maybe because every time I masturbated, like my prolactin would just shoot up so much.
Yep.
So for me
That's
to
a
just
factor.
stop doing it was just like the only way I could just kind of feel like right, you know. Whereas other guys could bust nuts 3-4 times a day and feel normal, because that's what I'm trying to say. Like, everyone's neurochemistry and whatever is different.
I'd say in the short term, I would argue that if they keep doing that over the long term, eventually it's going to have a top-end effect.
Exactly.
And yeah.
But that's what I was saying. But yeah, no, that's interesting. That's actually fucking crazy. I mean, this is stuff I haven't even really considered. So like, what? I mean, I guess maybe how can we like increase that our androgen receptor density like in the brain? Like, how do you? Do that?
The number one thing, I'm sure Alex will agree with me on this one, is not aiming towards just going flat out towards increasing that with supplements and stuff. The main thing should be getting rid of the things that are causing that problem in the first place.
Yeah.
So any like chemicals.
Well, like this this plastic bottle I've got right here.
Exactly, bro. Like, what are you doing with it?
I got a metal one. It's just allow it, all right.
Allow it, fam.
But I know what's going on. Like, I know what I'm doing. I'm aware, but it's just sake of convenience. You know, you can't be you can't go crazy on these things. You know, you can't be like
and the fact that so many guys now, when they're developing gynecomastia, that they're normalizing this, saying it's completely normal. It's not normal.
Yeah,
it's a sign that either your estrogen's too high.
Painful. It's painful.
Oh yeah.
When I had it was like, ow, what the fuck's wrong with me?
I've got a gyno right now. I'm actually running raloxifene to undo some of the gyno that I got from before. I got it from during after my operation. My hormones, I couldn't take anything to stop the estrogen. And then recently, I was experimenting with a testosterone booster called something Superba.
No.
Ball by Natalentis. I'm thinking of another thing. Ball by Natalentis.
Yeah.
So it's very powerful, but it's so estrogenic, and I didn't realize that I actually started developing. Like, it was increasing the gyno I already had, and made me a bit insecure about it. So.
Yeah, it's one of them weird things. Like, I had it, I was very insecure, but I'm at a point where, like, I kind of realized if you have a good physique, like, no one really notices it. Like, no one ever brings it up. I don't really worry about it.
You do, and that's the biggest problem. The biggest problem, you look at the mirror, you've got a great physique, but all you see, your eyes constantly just scoping on that bit of gynecomastia, and that right there can destroy you.
It's kind of a blessing in disguise, though, because it, like, gives you so much motivation to build a physique and to look like I would never have gone in this part. If I didn't have gyno, I would never have gone into testosterone. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be experiencing the life I am now. So it's not really bad, but
that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, it's one way to look at it, but I don't know, like, so that's that. So what, getting rid of all like estrogenic things, is this like in terms of nutritionally and like environmentally, or is this also like a social thing, like get rid of like beta behavior? And
it can be as well, so that can intertwine with it, but primarily you want to get rid of anything that's in the food. For example, soy, that's a huge 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. Go on that, because if you've got low 5-alpha reductase, you're going to have less DHT, and then DHT is important for regulating estrogen.
Got it.
So it's got a bad rep on, it causes hair loss and whatnot. But there's...
Oh yeah, no, I'm very like, I've been reading into DHT a lot, and it really is like the alpha male hormone. That's like the one.
Oh yeah.
I think about it this way: like, what if this whole DHT? I mean, it probably is the case that they say it causes hair loss because they know if too many guys start upping their DHT, they're going to be more alpha and they're harder to control. So they thought,
I wouldn't go that far.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. It's a little bit deep, but
because I mean, it's not to say that things like what's it called, the hair loss drug? I forgot the name.
The
one. What?
Philosterine or some shit like that.
Finasteride.
Yeah.
Finasteride. So, I mean, there are guys that have taken finasteride, and although they protect their hair, they lose. Like a lot of them have lost sexual function, and I'm seeing people denying the fact that there are people with dysfunction from using finasteride.
And
but
that,
I mean,
that blocks DHT. It's like a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, right?
yeah. So it blocks 5-alpha reductase, so you get less DHT, and also allopregnenolone, which is important for well-being.
Okay, so well, I already know this, but like DHT is like heavily associated with like your libido, right? Your sex drive.
Yeah, I'd say.
But it's not the be all end all though, right?
It's not the be all and end all. For example, you can, you don't necessarily need it, but there are also people just completely disregard that there are other hormones that break down metabolites of DHT further down the line that do affect how you feel, that do affect your sexual capabilities. So those are also important. And of course, if you're cutting off DHT, you're going to be cutting those off as well.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, you seem to know a lot. Like, wow, your knowledge is really impressive. Like, I haven't really met someone that's been like this, like very specific in this area. I'm really interested in this androgen receptor, like in the brain. Like, so maybe, I mean, I know you said like you got to get rid of the negative things, but what are the ways to increase it? Like, how do you go about that?
No fap. Number one, no fap. Straight up.
Yeah, cool.
Like,
I'd agree.
Yeah, prolactin heavily. I believe prolactin heavily inhibits DHT. There wasn't a direct study to show that, but there is a study that showed that when you inhibit prolactin and you take something like HCG, it greatly increases the androgen receptor density. So based on that, it's like 2 + 2 = 4. So you can kind of work out.
Yeah, I would say when it comes to increasing androgen receptor density, if you look at all the supplements that would increase AR density, they also for some reason increase dopamine, right? Dopamine is like an antagonist.
They tend to be dopaminergic.
I would assume that like dopamine and androgen receptors have some kind of they have like some kind of correlation.
Dopamine lowers prolactin.
Yeah.
So
would you say that's why?
When it comes to DHT, like when it comes to DHT, when you have a spike in dopamine, DHT prolongs the actual feeling, which makes you more motivated and things like that. When you have high estrogen, it shortens the dopamine spike. That's why you have addictions like porn, alcohol, shit like that.
Yeah. One thing I'll just ask, like, if you would agree, but I find so when I take something like Mucuna pruriens or like forskolin or like Tonkat Ali or these kind of herbs, I notice I want to just fight. I know it sounds weird, but I just want to. When I watch a fight, it just makes me want to fight so bad. I don't know what it is. Like, is that something related? Would you say? Is that like an alpha?
Try pine pollen, mate. Try pine pollen, bro.
Oh no, I'm gonna start beating people up on a night out.
I'm not a fan of, like, personally, I'm not a fan of dope. What's the name? Was it L-Dopa?
Okay.
And yeah, that's the one.
Why is that? Because it just gets metabolized really fast, and it's like it's not.
Essentially, you've got dopamine. There's two pathways dopamine's made. I think I can't remember exactly.
Tyrosine.
Refresh myself, but so tyrosine hydroxylase and the other one, which I forgot the name of. But essentially, you're bypassing tyrosine hydroxylase, and it's too much. It's more than what would normally be produced. So what happens when you have too much dopamine? Then your receptors are going to start desensitizing, down-regulating. So it was last year I was running a dopamine agonist called cabergoline. I ran that along with letrozole and proviron. A bit of a strange combination, actually. I was trying to reduce gynecomastia at the time last year. And when I came off cabergoline, like, geez, man, I spoke to Alex about this this morning, actually. It messed me up. Like, it messed me up, man. Like, you don't want to mess around with dopamine agonists, because once, you've been desensitized enough and then you take that away, you're not in a good state.
You mind explaining what do you mean by Because this word always confuses like agonist. Like, what does that mean? Because I know if it antagonizes it, it means it like it's like a seesaw, like it opposes.
Yeah, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. You got agonist and antagonist.
So,
So it just means
an agonist would be it raises it more, or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the case of L-Dopa, the L-Dopa is what, raising
No,
the
like
tolerance of.
Mucuna pruriens is super strong. Like when I'm like currently I'm going through like deeper personalization and I'm hypersensitive to anything. I can like I don't know, I just feel everything as in like if I drink like a sip of coffee, I feel it straight away. When I took Mucuna pruriens, it was like I dropped like a drug or some shit. Like I can feel like my jaw started going. It's very strong. And I stopped taking it like because I realized how it's too strong. It's like
Really?
It's overpowering.
I mean, I've taken a lot of Mucuna as well, and I love it. Like it's like it's just amazing.
It's great on like, for example, say you've got something planned for the night. It like pop a Mercurian. I can't say the name.
Mucuna pruriens.
Mucuna pruriens. Pop one of those. Pop an ashwagandha, and you're probably gonna have a really really good night.
Actually, do you know what? It's fucking weird. I went out and I remember one night I popped 3 ashwagandhas, I popped 3 Mucunas, I drank a coffee, and I swear down, I was like chatting absolute shit to loads of people, talking to everyone. It was like I was a star of the show, So maybe you're definitely right. By the way, this call's gonna cut out in 2 minutes, but we'll start another one.
We'll launch.
But yeah, what was I gonna say? Can't remember, but it's all very interesting stuff. Where were we even at? What were we even talking about?
There's one thing. Dopamine,
mate. Dopamine and DHT. They're like the kings. Like, surely, right? Would you agree or not?
The
highest leverage in a way. Like they're the highest leverage things, or maybe testosterone.
I like DHT. Like a lot of people, they get scared of DHT, but I personally love DHT. Yeah,
I agree. I'm all over DHT. But it's interesting. I feel we're lacking research. I feel like we're lacking information about it.
Free testosterone. That's what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, testosterone, bro.
I'm trying to think. I literally had something on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember what I was going to say. What do you think about Tonkat Ali as a herb?
I use it for pre-workout. I use it with caffeine pre-workout, but you generally want to cycle it.
Okay.
Because generally the quality is, unless you're paying a lot of money, the quality is going to be bad.
What, do you know this brand?
Bad quality. Afro D. No.
Don't know Afro D?
I don't know Afro D.
I'm pretty confident this is a good brand. Definitely not trying to slide in the affiliate link here, guys. I'm kidding. I don't know. I was just curious what you'd thought of it, but are you more like, you're more very specific, like you'll go for a specific herb? Because you're talking about herbs I've never even heard of. Like, it's going to cut out any second now, by the way. I'll send it. I'll just let it cut out.
Let it cut out, bro. We'll do a little dance.
We're doing well, though. It's cool. Alex, you might have to record the next one. Is that right?